Cool. Hey there, guys. This is Tim from Locked, Loaded, and Lawful with Legally Armed. And today we've got Mario from Pangolin Safes and Johan Martin, who's an attorney. And we're going to be discussing a few legal aspects around vehicle safes. And from there, we will shift over and discuss more details about the safes itself and what Pangolin has to offer for its clientele. So yeah, let's get started with that. So a lot of people have a bit of problems when it comes to vehicle safes. They don't know whether it's legal or not. There seems to be divided opinion on these things. So we're kind of interested to get a legal opinion on certain matters related to firearms. Johan, can you give us information from your side as an attorney on these things? How do firearms safe fit into the legal sphere in South Africa?
Thank you, Tim. The general approach by our courts is an objective one. The question is, or what the court always asks the judges, is if a firearm is stolen, did the owner take reasonable steps to safeguard this firearm while he had direct control over this firearm? That is a short and a sweet. We can carry on for a lot of time, but I think that is the summary that I have. And by locking it in a safe, bolted to a vehicle whilst the vehicle itself is locked, can certainly be seen as an effort to take reasonable steps to safeguard a firearm. So it's a positive, and I will definitely say it will be a good thing if somebody can lock his vehicle in, his gun in a lock that is bolted to a car, definitely more than a reasonable man should have done.
All right, so the idea that it's illegal to have a firearm in a vehicle, it's not strictly illegal at all. It's if you've taken necessary measures to secure it, then it's perfectly fine.
Yes, if I did mention the court's general approach, and it comes out of case law, decided cases that already been decided, and that support this view. I'm talking about a recent case in 2010, State versus Nkonza, where the owner left his firearm in a toilet in Vryheid, in a public toilet, and he left, and when he came back, worrying about it, it was missing. The court still decided on appeal that he acted as the reasonable firearm owner, because the definition of direct control, he was not far from the public toilet. So the definition of direct control is you were not in such an unreasonable state by leaving it in a public toilet, because you immediately returned, in the Khoza case, immediately returned to go and fetch your firearm, because you were then we can't forget, but he then remembered that he left it there, and although it was stolen, the court did not declare him unfit to possess a firearm. There's many other cases, but more recent case in 2017, the owner, Mr. Venter, took his firearm to a bar. He didn't have he took it out of his holster because it was hanging and it was uncomfortable. He gave it to a bar lady, and a friend of him came to the bar. I'll keep it short. Friend came to the bar, and somebody else also came into the bar, and this friend of the owner of the firearm and the other guy got into an altercation. One of them ran to the back. I think the friend that came in with the owner of the firearm ran to the back of the bar, where the lady working at the bar has hidden it. He took that firearm and he shot and killed the other guy with it, and they charged Venter for negligent safeguarding of a firearm. And the court also, what's very important is that the court took on the merits of the case. It will differ every time. They took on the merits of the case, and they still decided on appeal that Mr. Venter had reasonable acted as a reasonable firearm owner, because that's the only place where he could have put it, and he still had direct access and control over it. So it's also another positive one. So I'm keen to say that Pangolin Safes will definitely, guys will definitely be reasonable if they put that firearm bolted to a car in a safe, and the court will definitely take that into consideration. Another thing is also, as mentioned, that most of the time it differs from case to case, but the court will also accept your preparation and your reason why you kept it in the car in that bolted safe, especially if you travel. You can't take it out of the car to take it into a business or to a corporate place because they've got gun-free zones, etc., etc. So we must remember that the court accept the fact that you don't have to do anything outstanding or absurd to keep your firearm in your safe at home. I say if you carry your firearm and you take reasonable steps to safeguard it, such as put it in that safe that Pangolin provides, I'm certain that the court will accept that fact that you, at the time when looking at the merits of the case, you didn't have any other reasonable place to put it.
All right, cool. So Mara, you guys obviously manufacture the safe and stuff like that. So what are the sort of requirements that are required for this kind of safe? Are there sort of standards that need to be in place, like SABS standards? What sort of requirements are needed for, that you know of from your side in order to have this kind of safe in your vehicle?
Okay, so fortunately for us, the South African system is actually quite good, although there are lots of people who don't think so. They are actually quite comprehensive, and in having a SAB standard for firearm safes, and more specifically in this case, there's a standard very particularly for a vehicle firearm safe. So the requirements are very clear, both for the safe itself, as well as the way that it needs to be installed. And the fact that there needs to be a record of the installation that must be made and maintained by the firearm owner. So personally, I think it's actually a very good system, and that's the route that we've gone in terms of making sure that the safe complies with that standard in every way, and also putting in place what we believe would be helpful to owners when it comes to the installation side, by identifying and working with a network of installers around the country, so that from a practical point of view, a firearm owner can buy a safe and have it properly installed and therefore available for his use.
Yeah, like what you mentioned about some of the stuff the laws and stuff that are in place. I've long said, and a lot of people will disagree with me, you sort of die hard, everyone should own a gun no matter what. I think that in South Africa we've got very reasonable firearm laws that are actually quite good in terms of the law and keeping others safe, and also keeping you safe as a firearm owner yourself. You can't go wrong if you follow the law. Exactly. Some will disagree with me on that, but I think in terms of the world, we've got very, very good firearm laws, and it seems that a lot of thought was put into safeguarding firearms and keeping them safe. I mean, you go to SARS, you can't walk in with your gun, and I mean, oftentimes I've had to just leave my gun at home in my safe, and then drive all the way to SARS to do it. And you kind of feel like you haven't got your clothes on, and you panic a little bit. So it's nice. At least I'm definitely going to be looking at installing one into my car, because I think it's a must-have for any firearm owner that carries every day. So I like to do things on the cheap. Sometimes things can get quite expensive to do. Can I install the safe on my own? Can I buy one from a gun store and then put it in my car and by myself?
No, so that's one of the things where the standard is very explicit, in the sense that it says that the installation, there needs to be an installation certificate completed by the installer. All right. And that therefore needs to be a third party who does it, and that the information that must be recorded is also prescribed in the standard. All of which, of course, is aimed at making sure that record is there to prove that a proper safe was installed in the vehicle, and therefore that the owner had recourse, when the time came that he needed to have some safe storage, that it was available to him.
All right.
And that it could therefore be used by that owner if something should go wrong.
Okay, cool. So, if I do buy one, is there a specific list of approved installers around South Africa that I have to go to? How does it work?
Well, the standard doesn't, shall we say, identify authorized or certified installers of any kind, which was a concern to us. So what we've done is we've put a lot of effort into putting together training material and training installers and doing assessments so that in actual fact they can have not only all the information that they need about the safes and the way that it should be installed, but that they also know what the SAB standard requires. And we aim to give them also the basic information about firearm ownership insofar as they need to know and be aware of it for the installation of the safe. We believe it's important for them to know, as opposed to perhaps, guesswork in terms of what's required. So from our point of view, we very much prefer that firearm owners do have the safes installed by one of these installers around the country, because then we can be confident they've had a decent job and they can rely on that safe, that it will be properly safe and secure for them.
Okay, that's great. Have you got numbers more or less of how many of these kinds of installers you guys recommend?
Last count, it was over 30 around the country.
Oh, that's great. So at least in every major city, there's going to be someone to put it in. Johan, back to you. So what happens? So just quickly before I carry on, if I've asked a question before, I'll sometimes just rephrase it as well in certain ways so that I can use and cut footage and just make it sort of flow a bit nicer. So yeah, I'll continue from there. So Johan, a couple of months ago, I was at a friend's place for the evening. Thankfully, my firearm's always on me. I didn't need to. He wasn't one of the kinds of people that doesn't want firearms in their home, so I didn't have to keep it in the car or lock it at home. But if I had a Pangolin safe in my car at the time when we were busy having a braai, my car was stolen. I unfortunately drive a VW Golf, so it's one of those hot cars. What happened if I'd had my pistol locked away in my Pangolin safe and my car was stolen?
What normally happens, I was in the police also for many years. So what happens, I've been dealing with this type of situation for the last 20 years also, as an expert, legal expert in the firearm law. That normally when you report it, the police take that statement of yours reporting it stolen, or the car stolen. So the information you gave them that the firearm was now in the Pangolin safe. Normally they'll open the theft of car and then they investigate that. But at the same time, they charge you in terms of section 120 of the firearms contract to say you were allegedly not in control of the car, of the vehicle. You were not in control of the firearm. It was in the safe in the car, and you should have kept it in its safe at home. And then they charge you. You make statements, and then the prosecutor will decide if they're going to prosecute or not. And what our attorneys normally do is that we do a representation for you, and then mention all the case laws. And 90% of the time of the applications, representations that I've submitted over the years was accepted, and then they declined to prosecute. But then you have another administrative investigation. They call it the Section 102 investigation. And you have then to do with a chairman or a person that is a policeman with the rank of captain and higher. And I have a bit of a problem with that because I don't have all the training and the knowledge of an attorney. And you don't normally, if you don't do a representation to them also, and you go on trial, the possibility is always there that you can be declared unfit to possess a firearm, and then you'll have to convince the appeal board that you were on the right track.
Yeah, so that's an important one, and I'm just going to product dump here a little bit and do a quick product placement. Legally Armed offers Legally Armed Insured, and it's a product that I recommend that all of our viewers take out, because it will help with these legal costs, and help with putting you in touch with someone like Johan Martin in order to have a successful case, so that it goes in your favor and that you aren't stuck in a situation where these kind of things happen. We all know that SAPs, not all SAPs, but we've heard horror stories of certain cases where SAPs haven't done the necessary due diligence, or they are not necessarily clued up on certain things. So it's important to have legal representation, and have a product like Legally Armed Insured that people that you'll have access to be able to help you with these sort of things. So moving on, Mario, I've got a couple of mates who are, I hate to use the term gun nuts, but some people, when they say refer to gun nuts, I like to tell them that when the zombies come, the first person they're going to call is their local gun nut. So I've got a couple of friends who love their firearms. They do, for example, they'll do cowboy action shooting, where you need multiple kinds of rifles on the range at the day. Those sort of things. What sort of products do you guys offer apart from your Pangolin H, which is the handgun safe? Do you offer rifle safes that can fit into a car, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we do. We do that in two basic formats. One of which, this is the one we started off with, you can think of as an elongated trunk or trommel kind of thing, obviously with much thicker steel and very, very secure bolt work and high standard locks. But that kind of concept and that type of safe has been found and as being used by some guys, not only in buckies, but also in cars, in sedans, in hatchbacks. There are ways in which the safe can be bolted into the vehicle so that it doesn't interfere with access to things like spare wheel and jacks and that kind of thing. And the arrangement is made to suit the customer, but not only the type of firearm that they've got, but also where they want it fitted in the vehicle. So, but those do tend to end up being quite customized safes, because everybody's got a different requirement, and that does add to the cost. What we've then identified more recently is that in the case of buckies, there's actually an ideal location over the wheel arch, which very few people are able to utilize effectively. And we're now in the process of launching a standardized safe that goes into that location. And you can think of it as a tubular safe, in the sense that it opens at the end where the tailgate is. And that will accommodate long weapons without any problem, whether they're rifles, shotguns. And there's also usually space for ammunition, or other things that people might want to put in there. And that appears to be the type of configuration that most people are thinking is the right one to suit their requirements. So perhaps that's the kind of thing, if anybody is looking at it, they want to think about. Yep, I'm not sure if that gives the picture you're looking for.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, fantastic. So in my spare time, I've dabbled as a knife maker. So I know certain steels and certain things like that. And for knives, we need a high carbon steel. And is a hardened steel something that you guys use for your safe? I saw the numbers were about 3 millimeters thick.
Yeah, so the approach that we took is that because these are vehicle safes, and particularly when it comes to the larger safes, they start to become quite heavy, which can be, not the ideal situation for a vehicle. And so what we did is some engineering where there's, in critical parts of the safe, where it's possible to do so, things like the bolt work and so on, where we've incorporated really armor plate steel, not because of the ballistic properties, but because the hardness and strength of those steels is so much more that mild steel that we were able to reduce the weight and, in fact, still have strength that exceeds the requirements that the standards have got for mild steel. and that has been a very a very good way to go. I mean, it makes an enormous difference. So in mild steel, if you're making it thicker, what you do is you end up just making it longer for people to, if they were to attempt to break into the safe, to get in. Yeah. But with some of these high hardness steels, it's completely impractical to even cut through it with things like a hacksaw or a drill or anything like that. You really need specialized equipment. Or an angle grinder. And of course, once you get to an angle grinder, now that's actually quite a difficult thing to utilize very often where the safes are located, and takes a long time. I mean, that small handgun safe that you mentioned, the Pangolin H, after it was subjected to the resistance to attack test, which was something we didn't have to do, but we chose to do. Even then, it took nearly half an hour with an angle grinder to actually access the safe and open it up. So that's the kind of situation that you've got built into the safes, with the combination of steels and the design and so on.
Yeah, so as a knife maker, I mean, just as a little bit of background for some of the viewers, I've been featured in the American Bladesmith Society magazine quite a few times in the knives that I've made, and I was doing some steel purchases at one point at a company called Saunderson Special Steels here in Cape Town, and the owner came out and we got to chatting, and he said, look, I've got some scrap steel here, because I was making kitchen knives at the time. I've got some scrap steel here. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I'm going to give it to you. I believe they use it in slaughterhouses for chickens. So they make the blades out of this. Why don't you take it home with you and see what you can make out of this? If you make me a knife, great. So what I did was I traced out the template of my kitchen knife, and I got my trusty, very expensive angle grinder blade, which lasts longer when you're making knives. Whatever lasts longer helps a lot. And I got to work on this damn thing. And normally I'll use an 01 tool steel that's annealed, and it'll cut through it like a hot knife through butter before it's hardened. This ended up being D2 steel. And for one knife, it took me 45 minutes just to cut the back edge of that thing. And it was 1.5 millimeters thick. So these kinds of hardened steels, I'm not going to ask you to reveal trade secrets and what kind of steels you've got. But when someone says they're using armored steel, you can definitely trust that it's going to be something you're not going to get through. The kitchen knives and stuff that I've made have got a Rockwell hardness of about 63, because I tend to like a Japanese kind of hardness of blade. But when you're getting to those levels, yeah, the steel can be brittle, but some of these new modern powdered steels that are making in crucibles and stuff like that, there's not a chance in hell you're going to be able to cut through that quickly enough to be able to get a gun out. So from a safety point of view, I like the fact that you guys do use a hardened steel and an armored steel for the safes. So yeah, that's really fantastic. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add?
Tim, just from my side, the general comment is that it doesn't help you to take all the precautions that the Pangolin safe is not, or the gun is not stolen out of the Pangolin safe, but you don't lock your car. So yeah. People forget always that. The reason why I say it, I always feel if I lock my, after I press the button, that the car is locked, because people tend to just leave it and they hear a sound of the remote and they just leave the car. There's some jammers, we all know that. So the court will also look at that. So if you check your car, if you want to use the remote, and check check definitely, even if you have a witness, that you check if the car is locked at the stage when you leave the vehicle, then it will also certainly help. Just a general comment from my side.
Yeah, and to add to that, with a lot of people I've seen here in Cape Town specifically, in one street in one day in Mowbray, they broke into 63 cars. So the other important thing is, when you get out your vehicle, don't leave stuff lying around. Don't leave bags, and even plastic bags. They'll break the window of the car. Mario, from your side, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, not really. Perhaps just to say, some people say we've over-engineered our safes. Perhaps just an explanation as to why we did adopt that approach. We feel that a safe in a vehicle is so much more vulnerable. Actually, the example you've just given is a perfect, situation that occurs. It's so easy to get to the vehicle, break into it, and therefore we felt we needed to really enhance that security level of the safes that go into a vehicle. So that's the reason for it. You know, we just tried to make sure that this, from a security point of view, the firearm owner will not be at risk.
So needless to say that if you've got a Pangolin safe in your car and they steal your car with your gun in it, when they do find it at a chop shop, it'll be a gun safe attached to the chassis.
There we go.
At least you'll get your gun back. But yeah, I think we've covered everything quite nicely. I think it's quite important. So just as a little bit of let's do a little bit of a shout out to your different businesses. We'll start with Mario. Mario, have you guys got a website and stuff like that the viewers can contact you on should they need it, or can they go directly through Legally Armed?
They can go to Legally Armed. There are many branches around the country, and if they want to get more information, they can also go to the website at www.pangolin.global.
All right, perfect. And Johan, from your side, how can the viewers get hold of you if they need your services?
Yes, I was the franchisor and the owner of Legally Armed for 18 years, I think, and I'm still a consultant for them. I have a website, Martin and the Beer Attorneys Incorporated. They can have a look at the website, or they can send me an email. It's very, very easy. The address is Johan at MDB Mike Delta Bravo. It stands for Martin and the Beer. And then Inc, for short for incorporated.co.za. And I'm always prepared to give some advice or to assist with any legal aspects of when something mishap. I'm always there to help.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks so much to both of you for coming on the show. It was really informative. I'm definitely going to be putting some money aside every month for the next couple of months, just so that I can at least put one in. But although I think I must get rid of that Golfie and get something decent like a Hilux or something like that, and then we can talk bigger stuff, and I can get my ARs and G3s and stuff into the bucky. But thanks so much for spending some time and talking to us about this. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.